got a coffee? I hope you do, or a tea. I think it's a great day to have a little topic about one of my favorite natural healing remedies. So grab yourself a coffee and let's have a healer's chat. So one of the things that I really like to make is elderberry syrup. And I have used elderberry syrup for several years now. Usually during flu season, I always make sure I have a jar of elderberry syrup on deck, in stock. And so I just had to laugh at Molly. She's sniffing the peepers over there, the little birds that still haven't made their way out. But before I get distracted and off topic, I wanted to tell you about this herb, elderberries. Now, I want to tell you about why I use elderberries, why growing elderberries is actually a really good idea, the pros and cons of it, why it isn't really common to grow it in a landscape. People don't usually grow elderberry, even though it is a common variety. The family it belongs to is a very common variety. A lot of people don't grow it, and I'll tell you why. And I'm going to show you my recipe of what I do to make a basic elderberry syrup recipe. Now, there's many different recipes out there, but this is what I do as a healer. A lot of you that follow me know that I am a healer. I practice alternative healing and health and wellness. So I'm kind of like the woo-woo lady that lives at the end of the road. These are natural remedies that I use to heal myself and to those that seek out healing practices or whatnot that are more older traditional than the modern traditional methods. So these are proven, tried and tested ways of using herbs to heal and have practical uses that have been used, since we can record the history of it. So elderberries. Now, we're going to cover two topics about elderberries. We're going to talk about the elderberries themselves, the elderflower, and we're going to talk a little bit about the leaves and the bark as well. And we're going to talk about those benefits because you might not know, before you go start making your elderberry syrup, there might be some things that you don't know that maybe you do need to know, or maybe there's uses of elderberries that you haven't thought of using yet. So I want to cover all the bases of what I know in my practice and the history of this medicine, herbal medicine, how it's been used. So I'm just going to cover that with you while we're having a coffee or a tea or whatever you're doing. So get comfortable. Let's have a little chit chat about elderberry before we start making it today into a syrup. My animals have gone completely insane because my cat is going crazy, the chickens are going crazy, the dog is, I don't know what's wrong with her. So if it sounds like mayhem, if it sounds like my house is about to the roof's coming off, it's because the animals are going crazy. So just bear with me. Okay, so let's talk about the elderberries themselves. Now, the elderberries, there are three different colors of elderberry. There's the red variety, there is the black variety, and there's the blue variety. Up here in northern Alberta, we can't grow the red, and I mean, you probably could try to grow the red. The red doesn't really grow very well up here from what I know. There might be different types of varieties, but typically the kind of elderberry you see in this part of the world, in the north, in the zone 2, 3, 4 climates, are the blue variety. Now these are black. Now I bought these, I did not harvest these myself. The variety I'm getting are blue. The ones that I'm planting on our property are blue because they will do better than the black ones. There's some things you should know about elderberries. Now, especially if you are growing elderberries, you don't want to eat them raw unless you want to poop yourself. You can. I mean, you could eat them raw if you felt the need or the desire, or you had a reason to want to poop yourself. But let's just not go there. Some people will just kind of grab a berry and have no impact from them. We call those people the old garbage guts. But some people, for the most part, you should not eat a raw elderberry unless it's gone through some sort of cooking process or drying process. The reason because of that is because they have a cyanide producing glycosides that they produce in these berries. Now, the red berry variety is much worse. It has a much higher level of that cyanide producing compound. The black variety and the blue variety, they still have it, but it's much less. So therefore they have to go through less processing, from my experience, to have less negative effects on the physical self or the physical body. So I would definitely consider, if you are shopping for elderberries or you're making elderberry syrup, you want to look for the black ones or the blue ones, because they have a less likeliness to create some kind of a side effect to the herbal remedy of them, with those types of, the nausea, the vomiting, the diarrhea, those kind of things. They're more likely to happen in a red berry than in a black or blue berry. Typically the black one is the one, the darker the fruit or the darker the food, the more nutrition it is usually. So I tend to go for the black ones, but I can't grow the black ones here very well in my climate. So therefore I'm growing blue. Just a side note for reference for those of you that are neighbors or in my zone. You might want to consider talking to your nursery and seeing if you can get blue variety of elderberry, that kind of thing. So why don't elderberries get planted here a lot? They're so pretty because they have beautiful flowers. They are really pretty. They put on a beautiful display, but they're not very common because, they are a honeysuckle. The family that they are included in is honeysuckle. And so honeysuckle is quite common up here. People grow honeysuckle, so why wouldn't they grow elderberry? Some varieties really stink. They don't smell very pleasant when they're flowering. And so elderflower is not really, it's not overly desired in a lot of, gardens or landscapes because it can be stinky. So that's why, it was not like taken out of our backyards as a herbal remedy because of it not being able to work or function. It become more of a convenience or inconvenience where it was a poisonous berry that stinks when it's blooming. So therefore it's undesirable, and that's why it is not really an established variety of food or medicine in the northern regions of where I live. So that's why lots of people tell me that it won't grow here. Yes, it will. It's just preference. It's not established here because it's not a desirable tree or shrub to have in one's yard. So that's why it can grow here. I wanted to kind of go over some of the things. Before we go into the elderberry, I'm going to talk to you more about the berries themselves and tell you about the healer's perspective. So me as a healer, what I know from many years of people before me bringing in herbal remedies and such, what is it that they use this stuff for as medicine? Now there's a pretty long list of the elderberry and the elderflower, so don't think that if you are growing an elderberry that you're just going after it for the syrup, for the actual berries themselves. You could be harvesting just for the flower as well. And let me tell you, to harvest or to buy an organic source of elderberry or elderflower is quite expensive. So for that purpose, if you wanted to grow some in your landscape or in your backyard or home garden, you could potentially save a lot of money or make profit. If you're a homesteader, you might want to consider installing elderberries because the profits are really good once you have an established source of berries and flowers. So that's one thing, you can make profit. The other things about the berries, we're going to go with the berries. The elderberries are used as a treatment because it's been known or proven in many studies and many cultures that elderberry is used to shorten the duration of flu symptoms. So if you take elderberry syrup within the first 48 hours, there has been a lot of research documenting that the symptoms resolve very, much at a faster duration. So it doesn't cure it instantly, but the healing process is sped up. And that's because it's known for its effectiveness on the immunity, on the immune system and immune system support. So that's one of the reasons why elderberry has been used in many, many cultures and as a traditional healing remedy for flu and cold. It also has been used in many traditional healing practices, like not modern medicine. I want to disclaim that, not modern medicine practices, in traditional old school healer practices for lowering blood pressure, which is something that you have to consider if you are diabetic. You do need to consult your doctor before using elderberry products because it is that effective, okay? It's really important that you discuss it with them because these are very powerful herbal remedies. And so somebody that has blood pressure issues or is diabetic, you would definitely want to consider consulting your physician before you use any type of elderberry product. Especially if you take insulin, it does something to the body that, you know, just be safe. If you take insulin or you're diabetic, really, really, really talk to your physician or at least a pharmacist before you take any of the products, because you can buy elderberry syrup at most pharmacies, and that's something you would definitely want to consult with somebody first, a professional. So one of the things that I personally use elderberry for is rheumatoid arthritis. I have autoimmune diseases, many of them, and one of them is rheumatoid arthritis. It's really bad. So there was a duration of time where getting out of bed was very, very challenging and difficult. I went on a regimen of elderberry syrup because I also had like, it was like a lung issue where it was a type of a lung disease that I was diagnosed with inflammation. So I went on a regimen of elderberry every day, which was basically a very simple recipe that I'm going to share with you today. And within a month, my lungs cleared up, the inflammation reduced to like ridiculously reduced. I mean, I would say I probably got rid of a lot of the inflammation in my body, and the fluid was out of my lungs because I had pneumonia and all these different other things that kind of led up to different conflicts and issues with these conditions that I had going on. Elderberry really supported me in that. And I noticed one of the other things is that my arthritis, basically I had no pain. I could get up out of bed. I wasn't in excruciating pain. I could ride a horse, which I hadn't ridden in like 10 years. I hadn't really ridden a horse or went quadding or any of those things, hiking through the bush, doing photography. Those were things that I hadn't done in years because my arthritis was so bad. So I was treating my lung condition and trying to support my immune system, and I discovered that it actually had a benefit on arthritis. And so I did some research, and yeah, old medicine, way, way, way back, people who had joint pain or arthritis, what we consider as arthritis today, this was the treatment, elderberry juice or syrup kind of thing. So that was really interesting, that it's been around to treat those kind of conditions for so long that, you know, I accidentally stumbled upon that. So that was very interesting, an interesting thing. So my number one go-to, aside from cat's claw and, cat's claw and devil's claw, and turmeric, when it comes to inflammation and arthritis, elderberry is my main go-to. Some healers, some really old traditional healers use elderberry as an antidepressant. So people who have gone through massive loss, people who have really struggled, so whether it was financial loss or personal loss or just are displaced, they will use elderberry and use it as syrup in a tea, and that is a form of it's believed to be a form of an antidepressant. So it supports a person in a lot of very challenge, like it helps bring them out of, or it's believed to bring them out of very challenging emotional states of being. So there's not only a physical level to elderberry use, there is a spiritual and an emotional properties as well. I'm not going to get too deep into it, but it is something that is used by healers all over the world for those purposes. So, including myself, I've used it as a practice on people who have especially had a lot of physical pain or have been sick for a long time. Elderberry has definitely helped because it reduces inflammation, and when you feel better, you're not going to feel like you're down in the dumps or go through some of those deeper, severe cases of depression. So it's kind of a support system in place of, or in conjunction with other support systems. as a spiritual healer, that's what I would prescribe. So that's the other thing. I wanted to mention the honeysuckle family. Like, a lot of people don't know that it is in the honeysuckle family. So I do know some honeysuckle varieties are invasive. I don't know specifically about how invasive they are in a landscape for elderberry, but I do think that once they're established, they will be like any honeysuckle and grow, right? So I might have to do another video on that once I kind of get the different varieties sorted out. I haven't done a lot of research on different types of them. I will do one planting when I get my elderberries installed in my property. I will try to do a video and update you of how to establish them and how to maintain them. But I'm not going to go too deep into detail about that today. I'm just going to stick to the healing properties of it. So I want to talk a little bit about the elderberry, the leaves on the elderberry tree and the bark. Okay, this is really interesting. The elderberry leaves and the bark have traditionally, in old school medicine, they're used in washes for skin conditions. So people that have eczema or skin rashes or sores, so if somebody was bedridden and they got the bed sores, they would use the bark and they would use the leaves and make a tea. And so, or a wash, they would use it, a method, whatever method they were using, it was part of their regimen. They would use that as a wash. Or if someone was, put them in a basin or something, or, say someone had eczema on their hand, they would make a wash or soak their hand in a basin with leaves and bark from the elderberry tree. In Europe, it was very common for the black elderberries, like these ones, they were used in teas to reduce fevers and to reduce flu symptoms. So, it's a very common practice. Here we use syrup, and lots of traditions use syrup. And I think we use syrup because traditionally when you make syrup, you cook the berries down, you mush them up, and then you add preservative, which is honey. Because honey keeps a very long time, and sugar keeps a very long time, and so it makes it more stable, and so that's why we traditionally use syrup. But in Europe, where they had more of a source more readily, they would dry them and then make them into tea, and that was a common practice. So that's really interesting. And I mean, obviously, sometimes people can't have honey, right? And so that's another way to use elderberries, is to just simply make a tea in treatment of fever, right? That's how it's been done. So now here's something really interesting about the leaves. Okay, I wish I had a leaf here to show you. It's like the dead of winter. There's no elderberry leaves anywhere in sight right now, but elderberry leaves would be used to crush, like they would crush them and use them in you'd spray them onto or splash them onto plants where there was caterpillars, and then people would also use that and put it on their clothing so that they would use it as an insect repellent so the mosquitoes wouldn't bite them. And so that's a very common practice, which is really interesting. Now, I would be concerned with putting it on your skin because it does have cyanide producing compounds, but I would definitely apply it to the skin, or to the clothing, as long as that was not going to be absorbed into the skin, to be safer. But that's how it was used. It was used as an insect repellent for caterpillars. So on the years where caterpillars move in and they crawl up your house and they make their way into your life, you could just put a bunch of elderberry leaves into a blender and spray that in a sprayer with add lots of water and spray it around your yard. It's not going to hurt anything. It's not going to hurt the plants. You might want to keep your animals away because, again, cyanide producing compounds, but it's how it was used. It's how it was used in the past. So I want to talk about elder flowers for a second. Now, I don't know how well you can see that. Elder flowers, they don't smell very good, even dry. They're not my favorite to smell. They're kind of, but elder flowers, I've actually, when I've had lots of rashes, I have some skin conditions that I have used these as a wash in the bathtub, where my skin had basically, I had like a shingles kind of thing going on. And I've literally used this in the bathtub along with chamomile, but this is what people use for skincare in old traditional medicine. So if you're not even gonna harvest the berries, if you're growing it in your backyard, you could always harvest this and make skincare products, which is another way you can make profit on your homestead or wherever, if you're into that kind of thing. Just a side note. So elderberry flowers, or elder flowers is what they're called or known by. They're used to make skincare products such as creams and beauty products or washes. So you need a type of a cleanser. You might want to consider using this, making some sort of a recipe where you're using dried elderberry flowers. Now, you don't want to use the fresh ones. You want to use dried, always dried. So rheumatism and of course arthritis is the other use of this. Now, it can be as an ingestion, or it can be used as an external wash or soak. And that's something that would be used. Or like, you know how like people make like blue lotion kind of thing, or rubs for your joints? It could be used as a remedy to be added into something like that as well. So there's all kinds of ways that it's been used in the past by healers traditionally. And so, you know, always from the dry form though, right? You don't want to make anybody sicker. One of the main things, if you go to any herbal remedy store or a lot of the on-the-shelf places, you can find elderflower is in two main things: skincare products and also laxatives. I'm not going to say any more about that. It empties the bowels. Yeah, I will. I'll say some more. It does induce emptying the bowels. So if someone needs to do a cleanse or a detox, it will, they will drink a tea, and the tea will kind of execute the bowels, and it'll make the person sweat. And so that's a really good thing that's used in healer practice methods. They would use the elderberry to work a cleanse and a detox. So cleansing the bowels and moving toxins out through sweating is how the body rids emotions and trauma and all these different things from a healer side of perspective of things, from like a spiritual healer perspective. And that's what's been, you know, old traditionally used from, you know, old school medicine. So that's that. The other common place you will find elder flowers, you know, besides laxatives and skincare products, is diet pills. Now, diet pills, or the herbal remedy diet pills, a lot of them use elder flower as a remedy. So obviously it doesn't work on me. Disclaimer. So we're going to use elderberry, just the elderberries today. And so if you're going to make elderberry syrup, you're going to need basically 3 ingredients if you're just doing a basic recipe. And that includes elderberries, at least 2 cups, or you could do 1 cup and do the half batch. Like I'm doing a main batch, you could do a half batch to my recipe. But you need at least a cup of elderberries and a half a cup of raw honey. Raw honey is important. When you go to the store and you buy honey that's been heat treated, it doesn't have the same healing properties in it. And so honey has to stay in its raw, uncooked down form for it to have the healing benefits and the preserving benefits that we are after as a healing remedy. Now, this is old school. This is how I do it. For myself, I always recommend that people consider finding or doing their own research on you know, different types of herbal whatever herbal things, herbal remedies. So this is what I do, and this is how I practice my healing practice, and this has been passed down from many generations of healers that I am either related to or that I follow and have taught me as a mentor. So let's make some syrup. I should just so you know, I am adding other things. I am adding cinnamon, I'm adding a cinnamon stick to mine simply because I want the benefits of that. And we'll do another video at a later time if you're into this and you want to know more about the healing properties of this and why you would use it. I'm just focusing on the stuff I can grow in my own backyard right now. So I'm not going to focus on cinnamon because I definitely can't grow cinnamon here, but I am using it because I want the properties of it in my syrup. However, if you are someone who is diabetic or has heart conditions, you might want to, or like blood pressure issues, you might want to consider holding off on putting in cinnamon into your syrup. I'm making it with cinnamon stick, but you don't have to do that. So for the purposes of elderberry syrup, there's three main ingredients: water, elderberry that you crush out, and honey, and that's it. You can put elderflower if you do desire. I'm not going to do that because I don't like the flavor. I'm just going to do mine the way I normally do it, and so I just wanted to put that in there so that there was no confusion. My recipe, I always do put the cinnamon in small amounts just for flavor and for the properties that it has for inflammation, and also its magical properties. You know, be magical. That's the point of this, right? If you can't heal yourself, what's the point of being here? Let's get busy. Okay, so to make the elderberry syrup, it's pretty simple. We're just gonna put some elderberries in a pot, and we're gonna let it simmer for probably about an hour. Now, I'm gonna use 2 cups of elderberries. They're kind of stuck in there. They're really fresh. Fresh berries, well, not fresh, like they're dried, but I just got them recently. You want to try not to get any on the floor if you have animals. They are dry, so they shouldn't be a bother if they do eat them, but you just want to be careful to sweep them up if you do make a spill. Now, I like to check and make sure there's no sticks. There's one right there. Pick out the sticks. Don't really have to, but it's nice to do. So I have just 4 cups of water. So I'm just going to add 4 cups of water to my 2 cups of elderberries. I'm just going to give that a stir. Now, I will warn you, it'll stain your clothes, it'll stain your counter. If you spill it, you have to clean it up right away. So I'm just going to add in a cinnamon stick because I prefer it that way. Now, you don't have to. This is optional. And I'm adding in 2 cloves. Maybe 1 clove because I just lost the other one. They're just 2 whole cloves. Oh, there it is. I like the chai kind of flavor to it, so you can add whatever you really desire. You do not add honey yet. You're just going to cook down these berries. Lots of people will add ginger. I typically would add a knob of ginger to this and let it cook like raw ginger, but I don't have any here in stock, and I'm not going to go to town because it's kind of yucky out. So this is what we're going to do. So we're just going to get this cooking. Morning, sunshine. So what happened early this morning?
Well, I thought it was still school day this morning, so I hopped in the shower, had my usual shower, and I dried off and everything, was getting ready to get dressed. But then I looked on my phone. I saw that it was 7, and that was Saturday.
Huh.
So I didn't get dressed, and I hopped in bed.
Oh, well, that's okay.
Yeah.
What'd you learn from that?
Should pay attention to the clock.
That's true. Well, good morning.
Good morning.
So our syrup, or our berries, have come to a rolling boil. I'm just going to reduce the heat to low and let them slowly simmer. I can't tell you how long you have to simmer your berries. I like to let them reduce to at least half of what we put in there. Every time you get berries, there's various moisture levels to the berries. Cook time varies, altitude varies. So I can't tell you. I mean, even your home's humidity level will vary when it comes to cooking down fruit that has been dried. So you have to use your intuition, use your inner gift of knowing to know when to stop. If the pot is black, you went too far. I guess this kind of is black. If it's burning and smoking, you've gone too far. But if it's reduced to at least halfway of where your water level was, that's about perfect. So I'm just gonna slowly let this simmer. It'll probably take about 45 minutes to an hour, just on a slow simmer. And so that's what we'll do. Be patient and don't forget about it. Check it once in a while and give it a stir. So we've been cooking our elderberries for about 25 minutes at a slow simmer. And as you can see, it's reduced quite a bit. So I think we're probably halfway there, about another 15, 20 minutes, and I think we'll be able to pull these off. Now, to prepare for pulling these off of the heat, what I like to do is I like to turn the heat off and let them sit. I don't usually start doing anything until they've been able to sit for a little bit and rest. Then what I do is I will either use a cheesecloth, and if you're going to use the cheesecloth method, you're definitely going to need some rubber gloves, unless you want to have purple hands or for the next few days. But what I like to do is I like to put it in a fine mesh strainer and do it that way or by hand. It's really your preference. So use the tools you have. The traditional way is to mash them and then put them in a cheesecloth and squeeze the juice out bit by bit, slowly but surely. And so that's what typically how many people do it. So I'm going to let this continue to simmer and we'll check on it in a bit, and I'm going to start getting my other things prepared for when we're ready to go. So today what I'm going to use for my elderberry syrup is just a maple syrup bottle. I washed it up, I disinfected it in the dishwasher. It's been put through the sanitize, and I had taken off the labels and we're good to go. I'm just gonna use this as my syrup bottle. My batch will make this plus some, so I'll just put it in a little jar and store it in the fridge. Okay, so I just checked these berries, and what it looks like is I think they're ready. I think this is good. I think I'm gonna shut these off and now let them rest for about 15 to 20 minutes so they slightly cool down and the berries relax a little bit. Okay, we're about to get very, very, very messy. So a few things that I like to use are I have a measuring cup, a batter bowl. I like to make sure I have a potato masher, some scrapers, those kind of things, and of course a fine mesh strainer. This is what I'm going to use. I have my funnel for when we're done, a bottle, and some honey, those kind of things. So what I'm going to do is actually, first thing, I'm going to fish out our cinnamon and have kind of like a little garbage bowl here. And I will tell you, it will make a mess. it will make a very big mess. It stains everything, FYI. So first thing I'm gonna do is hit it with a potato masher. This is just to kind of pop those berries up. Get the juices out of the, pop the berries kind of thing. Try not to splash because it's easy to splash and it's really messy. Now, this is the worst part because it is so messy and it stains so easily. So what I like to do is I just like to use the fine mesh strainer. See the importance of having fine mesh? This one I got from Pampered Chef, and I find it works really great. And just use the back of a spoon and just squeeze out the berries. You just do the best you can and discard. Try not to overload it. When you have a small amount, I go probably about half a cup at a time into the strainer, maybe 3/4 at the most. It's just easier to manage. It's more efficient because you can squish them down and get through them quicker. The more you have in the strainer, the harder it is to squeeze them out. Just something I've found works for me. With just the fluid that we squeezed out of the berries, we got about 1.5 cups. So we had 4 cups of water when we started, and we ended up with about 1.5 cups at the end of cooking down our berries, which is about right. Now I'm going to add approximately 1 cup of honey. So the honey I'm using is raw organic honey that we sourced locally from a local organic honey farmer. And it is such nice honey. My spoon keeps bending. Now this is the part where you have to have a lot of patience. Typically what I like to do when using honey like this, I'm not measuring by the way because I'm just eyeballing it. I've done this so many times, I get it. I know when to stop. But when I work with honey like this, what I tend to like to do is I like to add it in and then I let it sit and like kind of break down on its own. So then it's easier to mix in because once it gets to a certain point, like the honey won't dissolve anymore. Like you have to, you can only dissolve so much, kind of like salt where it can only absorb so much. The same kind of thing happens with honey when you're making a syrup, when it's all raw honey, it will get to a certain point where it won't dissolve anymore. So I'm just kind of breaking it up as much as I can. You could use a whisk or you could use a fork. And it's just gonna sit on the bottom. I just wanted to kind of break it up. So we'll let it dissolve a little bit and then come back, and it should have naturally kind of softened up, so it'll stir in a little bit easier in a few minutes. So that's what we'll do. There's still chunks in there. They will slowly dissolve. If it's all gonna fit into one bottle, you could actually pour it into your bottle and then just shake it every couple of times a day. Every time you go into the fridge, just give it a little shake and it will actually break up. It's just you have to just have patience. When it comes to this kind of herbal remedy, you just have to have patience. It will all come together. We're so used to having things instant that sometimes, you know, sometimes it becomes more of a chore than a pleasure making and doing things with intention. So just hold patience and it'll eventually all come together. See, there's a little less already. So I think it's actually probably really good to go. There might be a couple chunks inside there still. I don't know. Yeah, I think it's good. So let's get our bottle ready. So there we have it. Thank you for making elderberry syrup with me. I hope you learned something and I hope you enjoyed this video. If you liked this and want to see more, please like and subscribe and click the little bell notification on my channel. I would love to bring you more content like this and some of my own healer remedies and recipes and what I'm growing in my backyard that is something that I use as a healer remedy for my healing practice. So if you want more, stick around. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.